Oh my God, Mike! I think you might have just tore a little piece of my heart.
Oh boy, I that's why I said you might not want me on this episode because
you didn't tell me that.
You didn't tell me that until it was too late.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Wait, hold on a second.
I thought we were doing telephone.
Yeah, since when does it strike me? Since when do you ever strike me as the person whose opinion I don't want, even if it's not the opinion that I agree with?
That is true.
And I necessarily don't. I'm not disagreeing with your opinion, as far as you know.
Am I gonna cry? This is one of my top 6 favorite movies of all time.
There's no crying in baseball. Like Charles Bronson.
If when I play, there is, because I'm terrible at baseball.
I'm usually crying.
So, hey, everybody, it's Chris Stachiw. I'm the host of the Kulturecast. I'm joined by my good friends, one, Mr. Mike White from the Projection Booth Podcast.
Ahoy, ahoy.
Cullen Gallagher of Pulp-Serenade.com.
Howdy.
And Richard Hatem of Taking Inconvenient Bites of Food.
Look, I'm snacking, but I'm here.
What are you snacking on?
Some delicious sushi.
How cosmopolitan of you.
He's from California. Get the guy a break.
I know.
That's what they do out there.
Yeah.
It's a little place out here in Pasadena. This one here is literally called the Richie Rich roll.
Oh my.
Richard can't not order that anytime he goes out.
Yeah.
God, I like it because even if I didn't like it, I would always have to order it.
Right. Speaking of things that we may or may not like, on this episode of the Kulturecast, we're kicking off Charles Bronson month with a look at 1975's sport noir film. Charles Bronson doesn't have big arms in the movie, though the poster would lead me to believe otherwise. I was expecting a movie with Charles Bronson with giant arms like Popeye. If you want to hear Popeye, all about Popeye, go check out the Projection Booth episode on Popeye, Robert Altman's film. But on this episode, we're talking about 1975's Hard Times.
Now, tell me, how'd you make money?
I knock people down.
You mean like a prize fighter?
No, they're pickup fights. The money's made on bets.
What does it feel like to knock somebody down?
It makes me feel a hell of a lot better than it does him.
1933. America had hit the skids. People were out of work and out of luck.
Third refill costs a nickel.
Life was as tough as a cheap steak.
Suppose you've been down the long, hard road.
Who hasn't?
It was hard times.
I got a husband in jail, no job, and no prospects.
I don't look past the next bend in the road.
A man had to live by his wits.
Well, my man's just starting out. He's good, but I'd get long odds.
What kind of odds you talking about?
5 to 1.
3 to 1.
D.
Or by his fists. Columbia Pictures presents Hard Times, starring Charles Bronson as Cheney, a drifter.
When I get enough change in my pocket, I'm going.
A loner.
Are you going to stay the night?
Not this time.
A man who spoke soft.
I barely know you.
Yeah, but would you like to?
And hit hard. James Coburn as Speed, a born con man.
50-50 on all scratch bets and expenses. All side bets, I keep 75%. That's how it works.
Who could make a fortune in a day.
I propose a toast to the best man I know. Me.
And lose it in a minute.
I'm flat broke. I need some money fast. What the hell are you doing?
You don't want no trouble. Just you pay your debts.
Speed was the hustler.
It was too damned easy. There ain't no rules about that, except who wins.
Cheney was the hitter.
You ever get scared when you do your work?
I don't think of that.
Together, they just couldn't be beat.
You give us our damn money now. You want that money? Take it.
No, I got the gun.
I don't think you want to use it.
That's one way. You want to see another?
Charles Bronson, James Coburn, Jill Ireland, and Strother Martin. They're a knockout. In Hard Times.
So the film is directed by Walter Hill, based on a screenplay by Walter Hill, Brian Gindoff, and Bruce Henstel, and it stars Charles Bronson and James Coburn. Charles Bronson plays a mysterious character named Cheney, who punches guys for a living. That's what he does. He's a street fighter.
Down.
Yeah. He's a street fighter. He's not Guile. He's not M. Bison, but he is a street fighter. And James Coburn.
Bare-knuckle.
Bare-knuckle,
Yeah.
right. Not to be confused with bareback. James Coburn plays his manager. Strother Martin plays his corner man. And Jill Ireland is his girlfriend.
Corner man who doesn't really do a whole lot of corner stuff.
He loves a lot of opium, though.
Sure does. He likes his opium.
He sure
Who
does.
doesn't?
there's a dark cloud that came over me. It's called drugs.
But he doesn't have enough money to get any drugs.
I know.
That's the struggle, baby.
Strother Martin was bringing some real Stephen Root energy.
Boy, right?
I can see that. I can see that.
when they remake the movie, Stephen Root gets the role.
Right. That's a Stephen Root role. So Mike, since you did not program the month, Richard and Cullen did, I will kick it to you, my friend. When was the first time you saw Hard Times, and what did you think rewatching it or watching it for the first time for the Kulturecast?
I could have sworn that I saw this movie before, but for sure I saw it for what might be the first time last night. And I wasn't real impressed with it. It's definitely not a Charles Bronson movie I'm going to be going back to anytime soon, or a James Coburn movie that I'll be going back to anytime soon.
Will you be going back to it as a Jill Ireland film?
No. Jill Ireland is not very appealing in this movie to me. Now, Strother Martin, really like Strother Martin in this film. Love Bruce Glover, love Robert Tessier, but even Frank McRae's little tiny appearance that he makes. But I don't know. Coburn was just a little too much for me in this movie. It wasn't very well directed to me. It just looked like it was shot on a TV stage. It just looked really bad to me.
Mr. Hatem, was this your first time watching this film? If it was, what did you think?
It was my first time watching the film. And it's so funny because I remember thinking, wow, he's really getting a lot out of these locations. I'm really kind of enjoying some of these compositions. He's trying to bring some visual flair to a story that in a weird way doesn't have a lot of it on the page necessarily. So the story is very stripped down. And I think that probably doesn't help. It is very much a what you see is what you get story. And I think one of the things that we do as film watchers and film thinkers is first we get into that mode, and then we start getting in front of it going, well, okay, all right. So you're luring me in here, but clearly now what's underneath is going to bubble to the surface. At a certain point, I'm going to get what the movie's really about. And I think that's maybe where the movie suffers a little bit, is because the more your mind starts reaching in the darkness for that, the more obscure possibly the message of the film becomes, until the very end when you might realize, oh, there was no obscure meaning. It truly is what you see is what you get. Then it depends on how much you like what you see.
Cullen, you program the month, so I'm curious, why did you pick Hard Times, and what did you think rewatching it for the Kulturecast?
As I said earlier, I picked this because it is one of my top 6 movies. I've seen it countless times. And rewatching it again today, I still love it. I'm quite surprised at the reactions y'all are giving, and little speeches. I got to try and figure out how to defend this movie. I feel a little bit like I'm going to be fighting 3 Cheneys. Chris has not said what his opinion is yet, but for me, I love it. I really love the pairing of Coburn, who talks way too much, and Bronson, who says nothing. And even at the end, James Coburn says, "You got to say something," and he does say nothing. What is this? There's a text here.
Oh, yeah. The insanity that is the Wikipedia description for this film. This is the second time this year we've run into a psycho-ass Wikipedia explanation. I'm trying to remember what the other thing was, but it was in the last month where there was a Wikipedia entry for a film that was like, Mike, were you on that episode where it was like insanity, just like this? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I remember there was one where it actually had plot points wrong, but I don't remember it being insane.
There was something like in the last month where it was this. Oh, it was with Heather Drain and Father Malone. We were talking about Bless the Beast and Children.
Oh, okay.
And the Wikipedia entry was similar to the one of this, where it's like the person who wrote it is also trying to inject their own kind of interpretation into the movie. And again, that's fine and all, but
can't you flag that? Because
if I could, I guess.
what Cullen says is I connect with it, and I want to sort of clarify. I did not dislike this film. I enjoyed watching it very much. I enjoyed the whole experience. Part of what it reminded me of are the Lee Child, Jack Reacher books. There's this sort of famous phrase from the books, and the phrase is simply, Reacher said nothing. So in the books, as you read them, other people will be doing things or other things will be happening that he's observing. And then, big paragraph, and then it just says, Reacher said nothing. And that's part of who the character is. That's clearly also a part of who the Charles Bronson character is in this movie. Part of the charm, or at least the lure, the mystique is that he is a man of few words. It's also kind of a Clint Eastwood-esque mystique. But that does feed into it. And I will tell you, the Jack Reacher books are worldwide bestsellers, but I'm a fan of Dashiell Hammett and Raymond Chandler and many, many others. And I will tell you, Lee Child has an awesome voice. These books are about nothing. There is you don't come away like, well, where he's redefining the 20th century man, or the character actually blah, blah, blah. It's like, nope, it's a voice and some action. And if you like it, awesome. And if you don't, step aside. But there's not going to be 10 million papers written about Jack Reacher. I don't think that are going to say much. That's all I'm going to say. So this movie had that charm. It's like, okay, there's a very simple man going about his business. It drew me in. I guess I just wish I had a couple questions at the end, which I'll ask Cullen later.
If this movie was about the Bronson character only, maybe him and, the Strother Martin character, it's Coburn that really bothers me. And just this whole thing of him being he's a scam artist, but he's not good at being a scam artist. And I'd rather see like a real grifter who's able to just, kind of do it up and do it right. But the whole thing of like him borrowing this money so that he can do this thing, so he can parlay it into this, so he can do that. And it's just like, I don't care. I kind of wish that you get your knees broken because I just kind of hate you.
Whereas Strother Martin's post says, some are born to fail and others have it thrust upon them. Which to me, I think is like, I see what you're saying, Mike. But what you literally just described is what I like about his character. The fact that he's not very good at what he does. Like, even the guy he's going up against says, you always talk too much. You always say the wrong thing. He can't do anything. As soon as he gets the money, he loses it.
Right.
From the very beginning, like when you see him ordering the oysters, I really like that scene because he puts on these airs like, I could eat more of these oysters. And he goes to buy just a few because he obviously has no money. And he's so picky, like, I want that one and that one. And there's this desperation, and I like that sort of two-faced side of him.
Yeah, he's got a lot of moral weaknesses and flaws, and then he does then he's really shitty. Like he does some really self-destructive things, and then he turns on Cheney,
right?
Which is the name of the character that Charles Bronson plays, in a way that really, I mean, if you're not James Coburn, you will totally alienate every audience member. The only reason you don't is any lingering affection you have for James Coburn, which for me, that's a lot. I like James Coburn. So you're looking at a guy who is sort of becoming more and more clearly the opposite of Cheney, a man who promises nothing, desires nothing, but always delivers. And Coburn's the opposite of that. I want to, the last 5 minutes of the movie, 10 minutes of the movie are kind of where these dynamics should come together in a very satisfying way. So let's, we'll get there. Chris, what did you think of the movie?
Well, I'll tell you that Charles Bronson plays a very convincing golem. That's for sure. Or one might even call him a homunculus. I mean, that's what he is in this movie, isn't it? He is a force of nature. I mean, at some point, you've got to ask yourself, what do you do to stop this man? And the only reason that you're cheering for him is because there are people in the world much worse than him, James Coburn being one of them, all of these Cajun assholes being the other kind of, I don't know what else to call them, bayou folk. friends who live where the crocodile. You know what I mean? It's like,
why do you want to stop Bronson? He's a
But my point is,
a good guy,
right? But if you're someone else in this story, he's an unstoppable force that cannot be reckoned with. There's nothing anyone can do to stop him in this movie. He just happens to be our hero, sort of. Again, it's kind of muddy because anything anyone does for James Coburn feels awful. Because I'm with Mike, I find James Coburn to be particularly distasteful in this film. But that's the character he's playing. That's the intent of the character. So it's a success. It just happens to be like Sharon Stone in Casino, where it's like, you're good at your job, but guess what? I don't fucking like it. Like, that's just the way it is. Like, it's just a me personal thing.
You could have, someone could have hired someone to come in and do a rewrite that would nudge James Coburn just over the line into the more traditional, lovable rapscallion. He's sort of not that lovable. Like the movie isn't bending over backwards to make you love this guy and all.
James Coburn's a charming guy, and they don't really let him do the James Coburn thing in this movie. And I
don't think they wanted him to. This movie to me would not work at all if he was a likable guy.
But my point would be cast somebody else then. Well, because it feels like a waste to have James Coburn not being. I don't know. I 100% get where you're coming from, Cullen. I'll say that much. I get it. But for me, it's like, well, find someone that would excel at that role more than playing against type, because James Coburn is playing against type. There are plenty of actors who would relish and flourish even more than Coburn did in the role. Coburn's playing against type. He's not charismatic at all. Like, he's detestable.
But in the beginning, you feel a form taking shape. You're like, oh, okay, I get what this movie's going to be.
Right.
Charles Bronson is the quiet, taciturn, man of few words who is unbeatable in the ring, and then we're going to kind of love the flashy, shit talking, con man who suddenly, has dollar signs in his eyes because he's found himself unnatural, and we're like, okay, this would be fun. Well, this will kind of be one of those crazy, period pieces where, everyone's Damon Runyon-esque in some way. But anyway, and then that's not quite how it goes. There's a point, obviously 3/4 of the way through the movie where the lid really comes down on Coburn's character, and all of the chickens come home to roost, and he's going to get killed. He's basically being held, and the ransom is Cheney, who's sworn off because this guy fucked him over. It now has to come in and get this guy's ass out of a sling, and it's like, well, he's got no reason to do it. He got fucked over by this guy. Why would he go help this guy?
Right.
But then he does. So you're like, oh, okay, well, just more, in the column of, this guy is being driven by something. Cheney is some sense of morality, some sense of right and wrong, some sense of himself, some sense of a code that is unspoken, some bit of internal machinery makes him go, okay, I'll do it. I will help this guy.
It's an ounce of kindness during the Great Depression amongst a group of people that nobody has anything. The few people that have money use it to exploit other people. I find his relationship with Jill Ireland actually really touching. It's just everybody is down and out. Even Bronson, says, I'm in town to fill the in-betweens. He hasn't been able to find anything. And I like at the end, he does, a kind gesture for someone else. It's not like, oh, I owe him anything. Because even at the beginning of the movie, after the first fight, because Bronson says, I don't want you to use your money. You're going to use mine. I only have $6. James Coburn thinks it's a joke. $6, you don't bet $6 in this type of stuff. You bet hundreds or thousands of dollars. And, after Bronson wins, Coburn gives him the $12. He puts it in one pocket. And then Coburn gives him another 10. He's just like, we'll work out a deal later. And Bronson just stares at that 10 and quietly puts it in a different pocket. And to me, that's a really important gesture because it could be practical where it's like, well, if I'm going to get mugged, they might search one pocket. On the other hand, I think it's that he's keeping it separate. Like, this is my money. This is not. I didn't earn this. And then later, when he is actually even at the an interesting little moment when he's renting the room, this tiny little shithole, and the landlord wants the money up front because he obviously doesn't trust, this vagabond to have any money. Bronson very carefully takes a single bill out of the right-hand pocket. He doesn't use the money that Speed gave him. He makes sure to use his money, and he makes sure the other guy, the landlord, doesn't see that he has a wad of bills. So I don't know. I think those little gestures, reveal, quite a bit about his character without him actually having to say anything.
Mm-hmm.
What are the in-between?
That's a line that he says early on in the movie, right, where James Coburn's like, "Oh, what are you doing?" He's like, "Well, I'm in town to, make a little money, fill in the in-betweens."
What is
and
that?
It's never, I think it's open for interpretation. I think he's trying to find meaning in life. I think he's trying to find sense of purpose, a place. Because even when Jill Ireland asks him, "What do you do?" he doesn't say, "I'm a fighter." He's like, "I knock people down."
Mm-hmm.
It's like he doesn't even have a title. He doesn't have a job. He doesn't have a profession. He doesn't have a identity.
On one viewing, I found I was a little puzzled. Not puzzled. I don't know. I was a little trying to figure out the relationship with Jill Ireland, because it's in the beginning, it's obvious that he likes her. Like he's a little persistent, but he's super polite and he's not a jerk. So you're like, okay, he's not, pushing her around. So he clearly wants to be with her. But then when he is with her and she's talking to him, he's looking away and giving her one-word answers. And then I was like, well, okay, so it's characteristic of him, but it made me wonder what it was he was looking for from that relationship. And then I was a little bit unclear with how it ended, whether he got what he wanted from that relationship or it went what was sort of the sort of.
So what I find really interesting about their scenes together, it begins at some sort of cafeteria. She's sitting at a table with an empty cup of coffee. He gets a cup of coffee and sits down in front of her. She's clearly sort of waiting for somebody to kind of pick her up or something, buy her a drink. And she's on guard. And, he says, he greets her and she's, I'm waiting for someone. Well, who are you waiting for? I'm waiting for someone to buy me a cup of coffee. And he slides it to her. And so there's this, sort of an expectation. He's clearly looking to have a relationship with a woman, to pick somebody up. She's waiting for somebody, but she's on guard. She's street smart. She's probably met a lot of shitheads who are really abusive and exploitive before. That's what she's waiting for and expecting. He's very upfront about what he wants. And I find him actually respectful of her boundaries. After they're walking home, she's like, he's like, "I want to come up." And she's like, "It's not that easy." For a movie in 1975 starring Charles Bronson, I feel like you could have easily had his character push her through the door, throw her on the bed, have his way, and he would still be, the protagonist of the movie. I liked that, I appreciated the fact that he doesn't, and later, she says, I'm trying to have a life, I have bills to pay, I need stability. And he's like, "Oh, I can give you money." And she's like, "No, I don't want that." And he says, "Okay." And he walks away. I feel like he's acknowledging, this is what you want. I can't give it to you. He doesn't force his way on her. He doesn't challenge her. He doesn't question her. I feel like there's a mutual respect between the two of them.
Charles Bronson in this movie, his characterization is a little, I made the joke about him being a golem, but again, he has very few lines. He kind of shows up, executes what he needs to execute, and then leaves.
Mm-hmm.
And there is this kind of feeling of an immovable force, just like a force just coming in off screen, doing what he needs to and leaving. And for me, it could have worked better. I don't want to say I wish there was more Charles Bronson, but I wish there was more Charles Bronson and less James Coburn. That's honestly where I come down with a lot of what I kind of feel like my issues with this movie, similar to Mike, are the Charles Bronson performance is an interesting one, and I would like more of it. But the James Coburn stuff is so it's not uninteresting. It's just not, and I've seen that character before. We've all seen this kind of glib gambler who's writing checks that his ass can't check. I mean, I mean, Cash, that's that kind of, it's that kind of thing where he's a loudmouth and he's just saying all this stuff, but then he's not going to back any of it up. That's an interesting dynamic because, I mean, that's a Walter Hill dynamic, right? I mean, that's 48 hours. Yeah. That's a lot of this. That's a lot of Walter Hill's stuff. Look at Red Heat. You have one guy who's the fast talker, Jim Belushi, and the other guy, Schwarzenegger, who says very little. But for some reason here, I'm like, while I was watching the movie, I was going through my head. I was like, what is it about this movie that I'm not really resonating with? And Mike, you mentioned something that I kind of noticed. It does feel like it was shot on the Universal backlot. I know this is a Columbia movie, but it's that feeling of like, I've seen this place before. It feels rather set bound, and stuff like that takes me out of a movie when I'm already having a hard time connecting with the movie. Does that make sense?
It was very much that final fight where I was just noticing just how flat everything looked. And I'm just like, there's no shadows in here. They're in a warehouse and there's absolutely no shadows in any of the corners. This is just so blandly lit. And I know Walter Hill knows how to have stuff lit. I mean, I'm a huge fan of so many of his movies. Streets of Fire, my God, it's like just this crazy painting kind of thing that he's doing in that. The Warriors almost all shot at night. So it's just like, I know he knows how to use shadows, but it was just so flat for me.
And, maybe it's because it's his directorial debut. Maybe that's what this is, because this is his first directorial debut. Look, and there's the thing. He had written other things. So, Hickey, we were talking about Hickey and Boggs before we even started. I mean,
did I see his directorial debut and his screenwriting debut in the same week?
Yes.
Yes, you did.
Yes, you sure did.
I saw Hickey and Boggs and
yeah. And I saw 48 Hours for the first time last month.
Right.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I've never seen it, but I've seen a couple of his movies I'd never seen before in the last couple of years, because I saw Streets of Fire within the last 2 years. Never seen that either. And for me, those movies were a lot of fun. I mean, as much as there were parts of Streets of Fire I wasn't a huge fan of, but I would return to it over this because, again, Cullen, I can actually 100% see why you like this movie. It makes perfect sense. I think just for me, I would prefer a different setting for this kind of story that for me is a little bit more interesting. And I think this kind of fast talking asshole, gruff, stern, just guy works better in other settings than this one. And I don't think I don't even know whose fault it is. I feel like it might be Walter Hill's fault. I don't think it's the actor's fault. I mean, I think Walter Hill had his finger in every single aspect of this movie other than production.
Did he write it?
Yeah.
Well, the way that the screenplay credits are, I think that the story was by the other two guys. They probably wrote the screenplay and then he came in and gave it a polish and then took a writing credit. That's how it feels to me.
They had done The Candy Snatchers before this.
Nice. So it's funny, Cullen, because one of the last movies we talked about was also a Depression era thing with these two men that are kind of partners, but not partners at the same time with the Emperor of the North Pole.
Yeah, that is also in my top 6.
Yeah. See, he likes Depression era films. And don't forget, we also talked about
Lucky Lady.
Lucky Lady. I was saying we talked about that last year.
What was the one with Forrest Whitaker? Was that
Raging Harlem?
Raging Harlem.
Well, that's not Depression. That's a little bit later. But.
Okay.
Wait a second. We're quickly filling up this 6. I think we have to leave a little bit of space for Every Which Way But Loose.
Yeah,
I mean, true. Do you want
which is also bare knuckle fighting? Let's just
So yeah, technically, I guess it's 6.5 because one of them is a short film. But I can give you my top 6 because we've covered now a few of them on the show.
I was gonna say now you have to.
So Every Which Way But Loose, you guessed. Lucky Lady, Emperor of the North, Hard Times, Meet Me in St. Louis, Smokey and the did I say Smokey and the Bandit?
Not yet.
Just did.
Yeah, and Fatal Glass of Beer.
No Glass of Beer. The one I don't know.
Whoa.
W.C. Fields.
Ah, okay.
Okay.
Ain't a fit night out for man nor beast. Cue the snowball to hit him in the face. It's a very surreal sort of short from the early 30s in which he and his wife are like in the Yukon. They're waiting for their son who went to the big city and wound up getting involved with stealing some bonds. And now he is on his way home, and they're so glad to have Chester home. Oh, Pa, I'm so glad to be home. Oh, Chester, we're glad to have you. Oh, Ma, I'm never going to leave home again. Meanwhile, each, the Ma and the Pa, each want to take Chester aside to find out, where's the stolen money? We want that. And it's, that's the way they talk. The entire movie is just Ma, Pa. It's just like there's nothing realistic about the way people talk. The rear screen projection looks fucking terrible. It's just like so terrible that it's like this has to be deliberate.
Was it a satire on like popular movies of that year? And they were like, okay, we got to send this up.
I don't know if it's of a particular movie. I've been curious about that. I mean, it's clearly a satire of a certain type, but it also has the typical W.C. Fields sort of misanthropy. Like, he hates family. There's so much bitterness. And that's very much this movie.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You put them all in a Yukon shack. It's like the shack from the Gold Rush.
Right.
If you've probably heard of W.C. Fields, but if you haven't seen a W.C. Fields movie, you should, because he's hysterical. In almost anything, like just any one of the classic ones that you hear about, just see it. And his hatred of family and his own children is that it appeals to me.
Richard, don't listen to this. God. Well, Cullen, I think I think we're almost at the point now where we've covered all 6 of your movies between Mike's show and my show. I think we're almost there. I think Meet Me in St. Louis.
Yep, that and Fatal Glass of Beer, the only ones.
Jesus.
Oh no, and we haven't done Every Which Way But Loose. So,
which I've never even seen.
Oh boy, I can't tell you how many times I've seen that. Haven't seen Any Which Way You Can that many times, but definitely the original. Definitely have.
I have them on a DVD. They're both I think on the same disc. So when I put one in, I might as well just watch them both.
Yeah.
So at the end of Hard Times,
yeah.
Spoiler alert, Charles Bronson does win the final big fight where everything is on the line. People's lives are on the line. And then he wins money. He wins a big roll, big fat roll of cash. And then as he's leaving, he has a ridiculously large amount of money to Strother Martin to take care of the cat that he's leaving behind, because he had a stray cat in his apartment. And then he hands another big roll of money to Speed to take care of Poe. That's right, Poe. I'm sorry, which is the name of Strother Martin's character. So he leaves a ton of money with them and takes the rest for whatever adventures he'll go on. Which struck me as like an unexpected act of largesse. Like, it wasn't just, okay, I came back, I saved your ass, you're alive, we're even, and we're parting ways. I mean, they parted ways in a far more, in a warmer way than I expected. What do you make?
Even warmer than the way James Coburn treated him. Like,
way beyond.
James Coburn doesn't deserve anything. At the end of the movie, like you said, there is this sense of just like,
I saved your life.
I saved your life. I don't need to do more than I've done because I already feel like I've done enough. But yet he continues further. It's strange. I mean, again, there seem to be like you mentioned last time, Richard. What are they trying to say, if anything, here? Like what is the motivation behind Charles Bronson's character doing that? And I'm not sure what it is.
I was going to say, like, what is Bronson's takeaway? What does he learn from this experience that merits that? And I'm asking legitimately. I'm not saying the answer is nothing. I'm saying I feel like I'm missing something. By the way, he doesn't go give a big roll of money to his girlfriend, and say, and here's some money for you. Go live out that dream you were hoping for.
He offered her money and she refused it.
Oh, okay. Then I missed that.
Yeah. Because she says like, oh, like I'm behind in bills, and he's like, you need money? Here it is. And she says, no, She wants something else. So.
She wants stability. It's weird. Well, maybe that's it. Maybe that's the answer. Maybe for him, it's riding the rails and freedom above all. And it's like, I'll give anyone money. I'll even give these assholes money. But what I won't give you is stability. I will not give you my right to hop a train when I want to.
I just wish they had given us a little bit more of that. I wish that there was just a little bit more of that characterization for Charles Bronson to I mean, again, I don't need everything spoon-fed to me, but I don't need you to completely give me a flat character. Because again, like there are times where I was sitting watching the film going, I feel like you could expound upon that a little bit. I feel like you could give Charles Bronson a little bit more to do. Because, yeah, he is very Clint Eastwood, man with no name-esque. Like I said, a man who wanders this Depression-era landscape, beating the shit out of people for, dollar bills. But he doesn't care about money. He's just going and righting the wrongs and, setting, I guess, clearing people's debts too. I mean, that's what it strikes me as. He's just this force just roaming the countryside. That's the way he's portrayed.
So I would disagree with that. For one, he doesn't glorify violence in this movie.
No,
and I
agree with that.
I think a really important moment is when he meets, his rival that's been brought in from out of town because, the villain wants to have, he wants to have the best fighter in New Orleans. And, Bronson's like, I'm out of the business. I don't care. I don't need to do this. I don't need to prove anything. And then the guy's like, I could come over and start something. And Bronson's like, you're not going to do it because you're not going to do this for free. And I think at that moment, Bronson is out of this game. Earlier, I mentioned that, when he says to Jill Ireland, I knock people down, he's not a fighter. I can imagine that before coming to New Orleans, he did something else. He knows he's strong. He knows how to survive, but I don't see him as a guy roaming around doing violence.
Well,
maybe that knock people down has a double meaning then. Because he does. I mean, he does knock people down. I mean, by paying James Coburn's, way and making him, essentially say like, you couldn't fix your problems, so I had to fix them for you. He's knocking James Coburn down a peg or two.
He is, but I also sort of, again, for me, it's a moment of kindness. And, his character is strangely gentle in this world of extreme violence. Nobody is honest. He's the only one that sort of means what he says, even, in the few words that he does say. I think at the ending, he gives the money because he doesn't want it. As he said earlier, I'm out of this. I'm not a fighter. I'm not doing this anymore. He did a good deed, and he's just like, I don't want this money. Like, I'm gonna go on. He's discovering something about himself. He discovered he doesn't like doing this. He doesn't want to be a part of this world, and he's left it.
I did this to save you, not to make money. So here's the money.
Right.
Here's your life. We're skipping over the best scene in the movie where he gets his revenge on Pettibone. So he's a guy who loves justice, and this is the scene that proves it. In the middle of the movie, or maybe a little bit earlier, there's a match in which he wins, but Coburn doesn't get the cut he's supposed to get. This guy, Louisiana dude, Pettibone, basically just says, I'm taking the money and I'm going to put a gun in your face and you fucking come and get it if you think you can. And he runs them off, and it's horribly unjust. I mean, it really is an upsetting scene. And then you're sort of like, well, no, okay, so we're waiting for the other shoe. And when the other shoe drops, it's fucking awesome because I guess Cheney, Charles Bronson, has sort of like, he knows where this guy, where his juke joint is. And he's like, let's drive around for a while. So they drive around, and then it's after dark, and then they pull up to this place, and then he goes in the kind of scene you love. I mean, it's the scene you go see a movie like this for, like 48 Hours and Eddie Murphy.
It's that fucking bar scene from 48 Hours all over again. Yeah. It really is just with Charles Bronson instead. Like, I'm going to go clean out the bar with all the shit heels in it. Like,
no, only with no words. The exact
right.
right?
Mhm.
So he goes in, just takes everyone apart, the pool cue, everything, and then and Pettibone included, takes the guy's gun, then walks out, takes his money, and then turns around and then with the gun empties the gun shot by shot into the most 7 most expensive things he can see: the mirror above the bar, the jukebox, the overhead lamp, just everyone. There's 20 guys in silence watching as he does this, just aiming at everyone. You're just waiting for him to kill the guy. Of course he doesn't. And then he just, empties the gun, does it. I don't even know if he tosses the gun on the ground, but that's
he does.
Right. And he walks out and gets in the car and they take off. And it's just so satisfying. And I guess what that scene tells you is he's about what's right. It's just like, that wasn't right. So now you're going to have to pay for that.
He also knows that guy values possessions.
Right.
That's why he goes after, the jukebox, the mirror. It's just like, this stuff costs money. That's all this guy cares about is money. Like, for Bronson's character, the physical violence doesn't really provide any meaning. It doesn't provide any sort of, catharsis. And I think that's interesting, because I think in a lot of the movies with characters like this, it is about them making violence. And it's weird. How do you have a movie about a street fighter who's not that violent?
I think it might have been more interesting if he had been portrayed as a straight pacifist, having no other option other than to be violent. I think for me, that may have worked a little bit better. And that would have added just that. It's just that little twerk of the character, because that gives Charles Bronson that little bit of internal struggle. And I don't have to have him saying it all the time, but it's there, because that, again, the times are what they are. They're hard times. This is the Depression. Again, like we've said, money means nothing right now.
Which Charles Bronson spent the Depression in a coal mine.
Right. And you know what? That's the other thing. I think we should mention, in this movie, Charles Bronson is 50 years old.
54.
Right.
He looks amazing. When he takes his shirt off, you're just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
See, that gives me a few years to look like that. I'm not quite 54.
Yeah.
There are these things about this movie and this role that Charles Bronson is doing that's just so it's so specific. It's a specific choice. Walter Hill made these choices, and it's no, originally, the character was probably going to be younger, and that wasn't in the card. So here's Charles Bronson.
It's cool that he's not younger.
I like that. I think that's it. I think that's an interesting kind of twist of the character. I just wish there was a little bit more. Because again, his character just kind of, even the man with no name has a little bit more nuance. And again, even he has a little bit more nuance, and it's not needed. I'm not saying it's required. I would have appreciated it a little bit more.
Aside from Chaney's character, which we've talked about, there is something weirdly compelling about the nature of transaction in this movie. It's almost a movie that is solely about transaction and value.
Yep.
And because it's the Depression, we're very sort of wrapped up in well, how much does a cup of coffee cost? And she's waiting for a cup of coffee, and he gives that to her. How much would 6 oysters be? What is a good night? How much is this money? And how much does it cost to get hit? And how much does it cost to buy a human being to be your fighter? And he's going to feed the cat. But when he feeds his cat, when he pours milk in that bowl, you're almost mentally going, well, how much is that costing? Right.
Right.
How much does the room cost? How much does he have? What percentage of that fight is he now spending on that? Who needs what? Because everyone feels like they're in dire straits and are about, 1 day away from their last meal. And so I will say that just keeping score of all those transactions and why people are willing to spend the time and money and effort they are on those specific things does become weirdly compelling.
Even the shoeshine boy, the guy walks up and gets his cut.
Right.
Oh yeah.
It's a very quick moment, but it's just you see that guy walk down the street with a nice suit and just walks up, puts his palm out. Shoeshine boy, it's just got to give it up.
It's like watching a documentary about, the ocean, and then just watching, it's like, well, what does the shark eat? But what lives on the shark? What do those fish live on? And where do the plankton go? And who eats the plankton?
Right.
And who eats the whale carcass? And it's just like, okay, so everyone's taking their cut. Everyone is getting, there's a weird ecology here that balances in some way. And when will it go out of balance? And when will it rebalance?
And I just wish they had leaned more into those things. For me, those themes had been more present. Because again, I like the setting. I think I'm clearly with you, Cullen. I like these recession era movies. I like this setting. This is an interesting setting to mine and an interesting setting to set stories in. I wish that there were more stories. I wish more contemporary directors would set more kind of interesting stories in this time and place, because they set them in all kinds. They set them in the 60s and 70s all the time. Some about recession era, I think, is obviously a lot harder to do period piece wise. A lot more overhead for the things that are being expected, at least to do it right. But I like the setting. I really do.
And the Louisiana of it all. I mean,
oh yeah, it reminds me of Cockfighter.
Yeah, when he steps out onto the balcony, and now we're just getting like way down the street, and all the other wrought iron balconies sort of just descending off into the distance, and I'm like, oh shit, they're actually in New Orleans. Like, there's no other way to do this. And the very next scene, I think, was the introduction of Poe. And they were in the what's the name of that graveyard with all the crypts above ground? Famous one.
Yep.
No reason for the scene to be there other than we're in New Orleans. We're fucking shooting that cemetery.
Is that the one where Nick Cage has his tomb?
I think so. Yeah,
it's a cool cemetary. I wouldn't go there at night, which was the mistake that we made. It's not in a great part of town.
Is there a good part of town
in New Orleans? There are. Closer to Bourbon Street.
New Orleans.
Yeah, they got to keep Bourbon Street decent for the
right.
tour.
Exactly. Yeah. That cemetery is cool. I love New Orleans as a setting. I really do. I think it's, again, when you have a city that is as culturally unique as New Orleans is, that feels kind of so distant from where most of us live. I mean, we all live in four very unique. Well, three of us live in pretty distinct places. I can't really speak for myself on that regard. Midwest is pretty generic. But when you see a movie set in New York or LA, or I mean, even in Detroit, like, you get a sense of it. Same like New Orleans. Like, there is something about New Orleans that just, you can't replicate it anywhere else. There's nothing you could do to replicate that feel of New Orleans.
And you can also shoot New Orleans today and it looks like it did in Depression.
Exactly. Right. Which is the other huge, yeah, just dress everybody up on Bourbon Street in period clothing, and there you go. Because they still have the trellises, they still have the overhang balconies. Oh yeah, it's great. I mean, that to your point, again, that's another massive benefit. And I like period piece movies too. I don't know. Maybe I watched it on the wrong day. I was really cooled off on this movie, so I really just, I don't know. I know what Walter Hill was going for, because like Mike said, I've seen better Walter Hill movies.
It's very Walter Hill though.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like, what the fuck is this? And you're like, oh
no, yeah. If someone asked me like, who do you think directed this? Be like, well, there's a couple people like Walter Hill. Like, it just feels so stylistically like his movie that, again, like, this is the movie he wanted to make. So.
Well, and again, it's like, you could, even the very time they shot it, you could have, I think, I mean, it's a whole different subject, but I think you could have swapped out Clint Eastwood in the Charles Bronson role and had very much the same movie, except then it would have been Clint Eastwood's flavor of not talking. I think Clint Eastwood probably does convey a little more, like, when he squints, he's pissed. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure Bronson was letting us in on his thought process. He was letting us in on his emotions, but it would have been interesting. Literally same exact movie, just swap them out, and to how many degrees different would it be?
He's not angry in this movie,
right?
No,
Bronson, yeah, no,
yeah, it would be very different with Clint Eastwood in it.
Oh, because you're saying Clint Eastwood comes with anger, pardon.
Well, no, I mean, the way you're talking about it, this like the Clint anger glare. I'm just like, Chaney's got nothing to prove. He's got, I mean, that's what I find compelling about him. I feel like anyone else writing or acting in this role would have made him more conventional. And I guess one of the reasons I keep coming back to this time and time again is it doesn't over-explain itself. Perhaps it's at a fault it under-explains itself, but it gives me so much room to sort of pay attention to the small details of the acting, to kind of like imagine the characters before and after. And I like that. And I feel like you know who Coburn was a week before, a year before, 5 years before. You know who he's going to be 5 years from now. Bronson's character, you don't. I like that mystery. I think there's enough hints about, you know, who he is deep down, but he is a character in transition, and that's I like that amount of space. It feels like every time I come back, there's something new for me to discover and new to think about.
But, and this is something Richard and I talked about pre-podcast, Charles Bronson does have a certain je ne sais quoi to him. That is, Richard, you were going to mention it, so I'll let you mention it because I don't want to beat you to what you came up with.
There's a little Seagal in there.
It's that quiet thing. There's just a weird energy that Charles Bronson has that does, when Richard said it, I kind of saw what Richard meant. Like it does kind of strike me as he's not your typical leading man, might not be the word I would use, but he's not your typical action star.
No, and that goes back to him in general, because when he was born in 21. When he got out of World War II, because he had been a gunner in the Pacific, in one of the planes, he went to art school, and he was painting backdrops for stage plays. And for a while, he was roommates with Jack Klugman, and he saw the actors and was just like, that looks easier than painting for a living.
Right.
So he went to California, enrolled in acting school. The kids, because, made fun of him. And I say the kids because they were kids. He was a grown man. English was not his first language. Spoke, Lithuanian. I think he also spoke, other languages. They all made fun of him because of his accent, because of his age, his body type. He didn't fit in. He didn't actually finish the acting class because he already was hired in Hollywood as a character actor. He was in like House of Wax. And I love seeing those early, bit parts when he's Charles Buczynski, because he does, radiate something. It's just like, man, this guy's only in it for one scene. He might not have any dialogue, but Jesus Christ, that's presence. And that's something that I like about this movie. And it's one reason I picked it first, because I think it really does I think Walter Hill understands how Bronson knows how to act, not just be a guy with a gun, not just be a guy doing something. I think he understands how Bronson knows how to use, his body as, an artistic, vessel. And that's something I do like about this movie.
I'm glad this is our first movie of the month, because now it's like, oh, interesting. Oh, we're heading down a weird road now.
And that's the thing, when I think of the other Charles Bronson movie that I have seen, which I have seen one other, as I would assume, Richard, you probably have as well, The Great Escape.
Oh, yeah, but I remember nothing of it.
Right. I do remember Charles Bronson.
Yeah,
because again, that presence that he brings, there's just I believe someone said something to the effect of the ambiguity of the charisma of the ambiguity, right? It's that he's just there. And what is he doing? Whatever. Like it's that kind of, like he's just there to assert his will on others. But again, not in a way that is, in this movie, upsetting to the audience. You really, by the end of the movie, you're really on board with his way of doing things. And you're like, all right, yeah, he's going off. And that's probably the best decision for his character, is to go off and do his own thing and distance himself from these other people that are clearly they don't have his best intentions in mind. I'm not even sure they have their own best intentions in mind. There's that Charles Bronson thing. I'm really looking forward to seeing where else this month he brings this kind of strange energy to, because like you said, Cullen, the reason I would rewatch this movie is solely because of Charles Bronson, period. Like and I'm saying that there's nothing else to offer, but The reason I would rewatch it is because I would want to focus on Charles Bronson almost exclusively in every scene to see what he's doing. Because, yeah, James Coburn is in this movie, and it takes my attention away in those scenes from Charles Bronson, because he's clearly the one in this movie that Walter Hill is wanting you to focus on. And James Coburn does get in the way, and it distracts. And that would be, for me, the third watch would be going and focusing solely on Charles Bronson. Because, again, he does have this strange aloof energy, I guess. It's just it's not disinterested, but he's just, you never get the sense that he couldn't just walk away at any moment and travel out into the world and be gone to his own devices. And you'll never see him again. Like, I genuinely believe at the end of this movie, like, Charles Bronson's gone and they will never see him again, but they can sleep soundly knowing that he's a presence out in the world, clearly righting the injustices that he perceives to be injustices.
Well, and it's like, it's sort of the movie. The self-definition of the movie is that he can't stick around. He will be walking off at the end. So then it's like, okay, he's gonna leave the woman, because the one thing she demands of him is the one thing he cannot give. So fair enough. The cat, but he provides for the cat, because maybe cat can't provide for himself in these hard times. Sequel should have been about the cat's adventures.
Yeah. Right. Well, the cat sticks around and eventually gets picked up by Philip Marlowe.
Oh, there you go. And just
right.
Use its 9 lives with the various lone heroes of the 20th century. Okay, so and then he pays off those other guys because he's like, I know what you're all about. You need the money more than I do, because this is your lifeblood, but it is not my lifeblood. So I will give it to you, and you enjoy it. And by the time you're done with it, I'll be long gone and we'll never see you again. Okay.
So what is the movie saying? What is the movie saying? Like, what is the movie driving at? With Charles Bronson walking away at the end, what is the movie driving at? Because it's driving at something.
Look, he's a guy who wants connection. He likes Poe. He likes his girlfriend, but it's not that he can't have human relationships. It's that it's not where he's going to land ultimately. So he will go and have other momentary relations. I mean, it's very much like Jack Reacher.
You don't think he could at some point settle down?
Well, he may need to, just based on physical degradation, but it doesn't seem like what he wants. He did not seem particularly heartbroken or broken up. But now I must leave. It was like, okay, on to the next.
I would disagree, because I think he experiences genuine change in this movie. He has actually learned something about himself. And he gives, a gesture of kindness and goodwill, of warmth. I don't think he's ready to settle down. I don't think he's ready or capable of giving commitment, but I think because he has shown that he can change and do something. I think there is hope and promise for his character.
Well, but what would you do? I mean, are you defining that change as he discovers that he has that emotional capacity?
Yeah, he's learned something about himself. I mean, the fact that he comes to this town, it's like, okay, I'm going to fight. I'm going to, do this for, to get by. He walks away from it. He sees, how exploitive this world is. He sees how cruel these people are. He doesn't want to be a part of that.
Yeah. I do it because I can.
Because he could have stayed. The other guy offers him, money. He could have totally just kept on this track. He found a community where he could have been a star. He walked away. He's, still looking for something about himself. And the fact that he doesn't settle, that he doesn't, give in, I think that's a good quality.
He walks away at the end of the movie morally just. And it's that, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't take the money from, knocking people down. I paid off your debts. I did right by you, even though you didn't do right by me. And I'm out of here. And I do like that aspect of the story, because it is a big fuck you to everybody. It's like, here's your money and it's more important to you. So fuck right off. And you probably don't even care that I've left, because again, the money is all that was important anyways.
Yeah, but it's okay. So forgive me for I forget the name of the actor, the cashmere coat wearing other, Speed's opposite, who's more successful. What's
you talking about? The seafood man, Chick Gandil?
Chick, yeah.
Gandil, yeah, that's it, Gandil. And I love that actor. He shows up, and I'm like, oh, that guy, yeah, he's just perfect the way he is. But any attempt at ownership of him, he balks at. He'll be in a partnership, he'll be in an agreement, but he will not be in an ownership. I mean, so clearly, I am going to buy you body and soul and own you, and you will do as I tell you. And that's like, no, that's not going to happen. And he won't do anything for money. And that's what's so surprising. I think that's what gives him power over everyone else in the movie, is everyone else is like, there is money to be made. This is the Depression. Have you not read your history books? We're in a hard time. And you're just like turning your nose up at money. That's fucking crazy. Maybe that was the point. Maybe he had to make this sort of over-the-top gesture of just giving away money in a way that nobody would to someone who does not deserve it, just to demonstrate his independence from that preoccupation that everybody else has.
It's very much a condemnation of capitalism.
I was going to say, I don't know if any of you all have read Lee, I think it was Lee Server's The Baby I Don't Care, the biography about Robert Mitchum. Mitchum is another character who had an interesting sort of, depression, life, and wound up, kind of bumming around the country, and riding the rails, and wound up in California. And when he started acting at RKO, at first they didn't give him a trailer or a place with a shower. So he would go in front of the window of the president of RKO and strip down naked and just start bathing. And they were just like, why the fuck are you getting naked? And he's just like, well, you wouldn't give me a shower. So they gave him a dressing with a shower. Later, he had this beat up old jalopy, and they said, you can't drive this on the lot. It's embarrassing. So he decided to take the bus to work and showed up hours late. And when they said, you had your set time, and he's like, well, you wouldn't let me drive my car. And they're like, okay, fine, you can drive the car. And what he said, what I knew is that I didn't need to be an actor. They needed me to make money for the studio. I could walk away and, I was in the country during the Depression. I know how to survive. I can do something else and it'll be fine. They're the ones who need me. And that's what that kind of reminds me of the ending of this movie, the sensibility of like, Chaney is a man who knows how to survive doing different things. Coburn doesn't know how to survive. He knows how to exploit other people.
Yeah. Which is why at the end, you just know that Bronson walks off into the landscape of the Depression to go and do this again somewhere else. And again, like you just said, Cullen, like the people who need him, they don't even need him entirely for the rest of his life. They need him for a week, a couple days, and then he goes on to his own thing. If you view it that way, it's interesting.
He even says it to Chick when Chick, tries to, buy him. Chaney just turns to Speed and says, "We don't need him."
Right.
And that's it. That's like end of discussion.
Well, he doesn't need him.
Yeah.
Speed would have gone into business with Gandil in a second.
Oh, right. Yeah. Hell yeah.
Again, Charles Bronson is the star of this movie for a reason. There's a reason he has those giant arms on the poster.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you that. I like the poster. The poster's pretty great, but I feel a little disappointed there weren't giant arms. Yeah, but that's the other Walter Hill movie that you happen to just see in the last week because the universe is just drawing the Walter Hill net around all of us, apparently.
I didn't know it was a Korean film, though.
Get out of here.
That's weird that they would do that.
So I'm curious, Mike, since you kind of brought up other Walter Hill movies, what is your Walter Hill movie of choice? Since we talked about Walter Hill just so much in the last, 6 months now.
I mean, of all of his stuff, I probably go back to The Warriors the most. That's really like the one for me. Yeah, that's probably the one. I really liked Trespass a lot. That
great
one,
movie.
Yeah, kind of underseen. I know that came out at kind of a bad time. I think it was right around the time of the LA riots, so it really got buried at the box office.
I want to watch it because it's got good old Bill Sadler in it.
Oh, it's amazing. And Paxton, right?
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, those two alone, and I'm already in the door. Like, get me through the door, baby. Come on.
I probably saw Brewster's Millions 1,000 times when I was a kid. I don't know if it stands up at all, but I sure did like it back then. But yeah, I would say probably The Warriors and then 48 Hours and Trespass are probably my 3 go-tos.
What about you, Richard? Where do you come down with Mr. Walter Hill?
Brewster's Millions is the weird one. Like, that's the one I'd go, what? I mean, that doesn't seem, now, I haven't seen it, but that just on the face of it does not seem like a typical Walter.
Well, and it's a remake too, which is very unusual for him.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Alan Dwan did he did the 40s. Was there a 20s version of it?
Oh boy.
I'm familiar with, because it's a Dennis O'Keefe, I think, who's in the Dwan version.
Yeah, I think so.
There's
yet another version. Actually, there's Hello, Mr. Billionaire came out in 2018. See,
is there an Indian cinema film? Because I bet there is.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. That does sound Indian, doesn't it? Hello, Mr. Billionaire.
It does. That's why I was like, is that the Indian cinema version?
But no, it is Chinese.
There is an Indian version of it from 1997.
Nice.
That's right, baby. I knew it. When in doubt, there's an Indian cinema version.
There's also there's a Hindi version from 88, a Telugu version from 85, another Telugu version from 54.
Do any of them have Rajnikant in it? Because that's the next question that needs to be asked.
The first version of this came out in 1914, and then it was 21, and then it went up from there. I mean, that's wild.
Could do a whole month of Brewster's Millions remakes.
Exactly.
Apparently.
There's even Miss Brewster's Millions from 1926. There's there's a 35, there's a 45. Jesus, this is wild.
So what you're saying is, if you ever do an episode on Brewster's Millions, Mike, whoever is on that episode with you is in for a rough fucking time.
Yeah, damn straight. I wouldn't be surprised if half of these are lost.
A great time.
Yeah.
This would
30 movies you have to watch ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
that would be amazing. So Richard, you didn't answer though. What is your Walter Hill film of choice?
Well, having not seen Streets of Fire ever or Trespass, and probably a handful of other Walter Hill films, I will for now say 48 Hours, just because, as we talked about a few weeks ago, it just works on so many levels, and also feels like a Walter Hill. Like, it's not an outlier. It's like, okay, right kind of in his sweet spot. So I'll say that until I see more.
Until you see Supernova, then you're going to be all about that one.
Directed by Thomas Lee.
Yes.
Walter Hill took his name off of that one, Richard.
Also directed by Francis Ford Coppola, I think, directed part of that too.
Best I can tell.
That's one of those movies where I would love to get the whole story of what happened with that movie.
Good luck, though.
Yeah, nobody's talking.
Cullen, what about you? What's your Walter Hill film of choice? Is it this one? It must be, right?
Yeah, by far. This is the one I've lost count of the number of times. My Walter Hill film growing up that I have not revisited in like 25 years at least was Crossroads. And at the time I didn't know it was a Walter Hill movie. I just thought it was Ralph Macchio, playing classical guitar and then getting a Telecaster and a pig nose amp. And it was just like that. Like, Karate Kid wasn't, I liked it growing up, but like Crossroads was my, that is what I want to do when I grow up.
I was your Karate Kid.
So that was what we rented, every weekend from Blockbuster. And eventually our parents bought my brother and I the VHS because it was just cheaper than going to the video store all the time.
I think for me, and this is, and no one has said this yet, I mentioned it earlier in the show. We've done an episode on it, but I guess my answer is probably a little bit of a giveaway given the kinds of movies that I like, especially the actor in it. As much as I like The Warriors, which I do love, I'm a huge fan of Red Heat. Because Schwarzenegger has done I won't say very few buddy cop movies, but normally when it's Schwarzenegger, he's the guy. And it's Schwarzenegger and get the fuck out of his way unless you're Radon Chong. But, for the most part, Schwarzenegger is the guy, and you're not really worried about, playing off of him unless you're Danny DeVito or a small handful of actors. But for whatever reason, Jim Belushi in Red Heat can stand believably stands toe-to-toe with Arnold as a Chicago police officer and Arnold as the Russian secret KGB agent, I guess, if I remember correctly. But that movie's a lot of fun. And again, that, like you mentioned, Richard, with 48 Hours, that feels like a Walter Hill movie. There's even a bus at the end of that movie, just like in 48 Hours. There's actually a bus kind of chicken scene in that movie that you don't get in 48 Hours. But that, when I think of Walter Hill, that's the Walter Hill movie for me. But we're all kind of talking about the same feeling that we get from a Walter Hill movie, which is gritty, grimy, right on the streets, a believable world on the streets. And this movie brings that. It's not bringing the streets of the mid 80s. It's bringing the streets of, Depression era United States.
So next time you talk to Susan, ask her about her day on the set.
You told us about it, I believe.
Did I tell you?
You've told this story on this show with, what were we talking about? Something.
No, okay.
I'll say that's Susan's favorite Walter Hill movie. Getting accosted by Arnold Schwarzenegger on the set of Red Heat. Lovely.
She was not accosted, but you could have gone sideways in any second.
But Cullen, as much as I, was kind of on the fence about this movie, I appreciate that you felt comfortable enough programming one of your favorite movies as a movie for the four of us to talk about.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. One of these days, I'm gonna put my heart right out there and ask you all to watch a little movie called Roller Coaster.
Oh, for fuck's sake. That is an amazing film. And
I haven't seen that one.
Lincoln Levinson.
Oh, well, now I'm in. You've got me already.
The
creators of Jessica Fletcher and Columbo. What the fuck?
That movie is better than it has any right to be. It is amazing.
Richard, sell me on this movie in one sentence or less. Come on. What is it?
George Segal, Henry Fonda, Richard Widmark, Timothy Bottoms,
Steve Guttenberg.
Steve
and the Sparks are in it too.
Sparks.
Oh my God.
It is a surprisingly good, well-written, smart movie about a group of people responding to a terrorist who is planting bombs on theme park rides across America.
I'm down. I'm
roller
already
coaster
there.
Goes slower than 55 miles an hour, it explodes.
I've seen that before.
Sandra Bullock, George Segal, Richard Widmark, Henry Fonda.
Keanu Reeves. Yeah, Keanu Reeves is in there. I like when I like when anyone mentions Timothy Bottoms as a selling point, otherwise known as the guy who just looks like George Bush to the point where they cast him as George Bush. We've only ever talked about him on one other thing, at least Mike and I, and that was the Helgramite maneuver from the Twilight Zone. So when anyone ever goes Timothy Bottoms, it's like, this is a selling point. All right, I'm here.
All right, one day we'll watch it.
Is that your favorite movie, Richard?
It's in my top 6. Let's put it that way.
Whoa.
It's in my top 6.5. We should all have a top 6.5.
I mean, that's fair. I mean, that would I think my half would be that weird Jim Henson like short that he did where he's like walking with the time in the background. Mike knows what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. That's some weird stuff.
It can't be a movie that you only like halfway.
It's like a half movie or like a short film.
Oh, so like the first half of Full Metal Jacket?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what everybody says. I'll just watch the first half of that. Yeah. Okay.
Right.
It can't just be like the George Miller episode of the Twilight Zone movie. It's got to be, you got to pick a whole.
Right.
Roller coaster, huh? A trip inside of Richard's mind. Program the month, Richard. Right.
Yeah. It would have to be movies like that. It could never, it'd have to be like my offbeat choices. It can't be, Harold and Maude, even though it's like, yeah, dude, everyone your age, their top 3 is Harold and Maude. Shut the fuck up.
But yeah, Cullen, I mean, seriously, thank you. Because, again, you didn't know what any of us were going to say. So, and
I say thank you.
Yeah. I'm glad we watched it. Is it did it resonate with me as much as Lucky Lady did? One of the best movies that I watched last year, thanks to you? No, but that's a pretty tall order because I stand by the statement that that's one of the best episodes that we've even done of this show. So if you remember that, Richard, you were there.
I'm trying to just balance the experience of watching the film. I may have liked Hard Times better than Lucky Lady.
Whoa.
I mean, I don't remember, like, I don't think I came out super pro or con on Lucky Lady. I think it was like, well, this is a big swing.
That's fair. That's fair.
Let's look at the pieces. Let's look at the whole. Okay. Yeah. All right.
So, Mike, final thoughts on Hard Times.
Glad I saw it. Probably won't watch it again.
Mr. Hatem.
It makes me excited for the rest of Charles Bronson month.
Yeah. I'm going to let Cullen go last, so I'll go next. Yeah, I'm excited to see where Charles Bronson goes from here, given that my exposure to Charles Bronson is vastly limited. So this is the first Charles Bronson, ostensibly the first Charles Bronson movie I've ever seen. So we'll just go with that. And yeah, I'm excited to see where we go from here. So Cullen, I'll give you the final word on the movie.
Well, if you watch it, I hope you like it. And, I would say come back to it after you watch a bunch of other Bronson movies and see what you think of it.
No, see, that's valid. That I will probably do. Yeah, that's interesting. Sure, why not, right? It could only get better if I wasn't a super huge fan of it. I mean, it can only get better. So on that note, let's take a break and we'll play a preview for the next Culturecast of Bronson Month.
Sir, it's a gift for a present from my Imperial Majesty the Mikado.
Oh, gold. Real gold, huh? You tell your emperor, I thank him.
Now we take off yours. Leave goes for you. You fool. He outsmarted you. You'll never get that money. Don't move. I kill you. I swear I'll kill you.
Kruda is no ordinary man.
I don't care what he is. Look, Ambassador, we don't have horses, and Ghosh has a 2-hour head start, and he's got 20 mean guns to back him up. Hell, even if I do catch up with him, the trouble just begins.
Silence! Each of these nuts represents a day. I have given him 7 days to recover the Mikado's sword. In 7 days, I will pass here again. The same train.
Suppose he doesn't make it in 7 days.
For the disgrace of failure, he will rip his abdomen.
Well, that's something I'd like to see. And he might as well do it now, because I'm not taking it.
Son of a bitch.
You think you could do that again?
Almost certainly.
That's right. On the next Culturecast of Bronson Month, we're going to be talking about Red Sun, which features Charles Bronson and Toshiro Mifune. Sounds like fun. Mike's giving a thumbs up. You can't see it because this is an audio medium, but I assume Mike's thumbs up is a vote of approval.
I do remember liking it. Hopefully it holds up.
I hope so, because, hey, it sounds great. And we're going to be joined by a good friend of the show, one Heather Drain. You've heard her with Father Malone before, but she's going to get to meet Richard and Cullen, and we're going to get to talk all about Red Sun and Toshiro Mifune and when cultures clash, samurais and cowboys. Sounds like fun, doesn't it, Richard?
Sounds like the Bushido blade.
Hey! So until then, Mike, what is going on at the internet's finest movie podcast, The Projection Booth?
Well, we are just kicking off Sci-Fi July, so we're talking about a whole bunch of sci-fi films, including Code 46, Star Trek The Motion Picture, Morons from Outer Space. It should be a good time.
What about you, Richard? What's going on over with DC Titans?
My God, we're working my tail off on the concluding episode of season 4, which I have written and we're getting ready to film. So I'll be heading back up to Toronto in a couple of weeks. But season 4 premieres on HBO Max in August. I have not been given a date, but my understanding is it's late August. which tends to be when we premiere. That's when we did season 3. Seasons 1, 2, and 3 are currently available on HBO Max. You can watch them all and get ready for season 4, coming up in about a month.
What about you, Cullen? What's going on over at pulp-serenade.com?
Not much there, but stuff's happening elsewhere. There should be my piece on W.R. Burnett in the LA Review of Books soon. I approved the edit. There was really nothing to improve because all their edits are great because they're really wonderful people to work with. They didn't pay me to say that, but it is very true. And I have a new, I don't know if it's a blog, it's a website thing, it's a WordPress thing, cinemachamber.wordpress.com. I just wound up watching a ton of Jess Franco movies over the weekend, and for the first time in a long time was like, I feel like writing about movies. And so I got really frustrated with Blogger, which is where Pulp-Serenade is, and I tried changing the template and I couldn't get back to my old one, and they don't really update it because they don't really care about Blogger anymore. So I went to WordPress. I'm not really happy with WordPress either, but it's up and running, and I really don't care to spend any more time futzing with it. I want to spend the time writing.
Such as the life of a creative type. I don't want to do the thing that allows me to do the thing I want to do. I just want to do the thing I want to do, baby. I feel you there, Cullen. As for me, the repository for all the things that I work on, all of my ramblings, babblings, and everything else, cstachiw.com, cstachiw.com. Mike and I do a podcast together, a couple, Barney Miller and Columbo. We're huge fans of the police. Mike and I stand the blue line, as they would say, obviously. Huge fans.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Clearly. Yeah, but if you're wanting to hear about fun 70s and 80s and 90s and 2000s, technically with Columbo at Cop Television, check out those shows. Mike, Richard, and I do a show together as well called Rankin' on Bass, where we talk about, Rankin and Bass films, much to Richard's chagrin. Not a lot of animated stuff anymore. Like Richard mentioned, the Bushido Blade, that was an episode that just came out and is coming out sometime soon.
Yeah, very soon.
Sure.
Very soon.
If you want to hear about that, you can go to cstachiw.com or rankinonbass.com or any of the places that we've already mentioned for all the stuff that we work on separately and together. Culturecast.com, patreon.com/culturecast. That's all the places you can go for this show to donate. Like and subscribe, rate and review on iTunes. That's how you help us if you don't want to help out monetarily, which I totally get because inflation fucking sucks. So there you go, folks. Hard times. We're living them. It's not just a movie, it's a way of life. Mike, Richard, and Cullen, thank you so much for joining me. Cullen,
thank you
for programming the month. We're once again going down uncharted territory for some of us who have never seen Charles Bronson movies, so I am looking forward to it. And yeah, I don't know if we would all say you should watch it, but some of us would, so we watched it. Maybe you should, and we'll catch you on the next episode.